But as chief scientist and trading on solid ground, what are your top priorities right now as chief scientist for the next 5 years?
My first priority, right, is to actually energize the innovation ecosystem and really create a path by which the research organization, right, liaises over into the industry so that we can use more of what we are building and researching, right, and make sure that there is a link. I think linking these two parts of our fabric, our economic fabric, will really help us move forward. The second point that I'm really passionate about is really exciting those, I think, young engineers, scientists, and, I think researchers to really step up and lead. And I think that, it's part of our strategy and really, creating that fuel for them to really, step up and really conquer the world is something that excites me. And I think we're doing very well on that. 2025 was a phenomenal year. It's a year where we basically, had almost 50% of the researchers that were awarded were actually ladies, right? Gender balance. So we've gone from 22% projects led by female researchers to 44% in under 2 years. We've been on a legacy set of solutions for quite a while now, and part of our mission with the Deputy Minister is to really modernize and accelerate Cyprus. That's basically bringing Cyprus to the new age of digital transformation, the new age where citizens can have these seamless experiences, right? Can actually benefit from information technology and move things forward. So this, right, is one of my core missions. Is before I leave, I would like to leave, for example, our IT estate at a much better, position than we were before. We've modernized 60 digital services, and we're going to work on others that are coming. We're building, digital solutions across that are going to be rolled out, across 2025 and 2026 that are making life for citizens much easier.
Welcome to the Financial Frontiers podcast. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit that bell icon to get notified when we upload new content. Follow us on Spotify and give us a 5-star rating. It will help the channel, which I hope you love so much. Here we are, another episode of the Financial Frontiers, and today I have a strong guest. Chief Scientist of the Republic of Cyprus, Chairman of the Research and Innovation Foundation, and also you lead the AI task force in Cyprus, all of which are new departments, if I've understood correctly. They never existed before you came. Demetris Skourides, thank you very much for joining me over here. I'm looking forward to a conversation on how Cyprus is innovating, what Cyprus is doing to become an AI hub or a tech hub for the globe. And let's get into a conversation about your background, technology, and wherever this conversation takes us. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for inviting me.
Please introduce yourself, go as far back as you want, and let's hear who Demetris Skourides is.
Well, Demetris Skourides is actually a gentleman who just came back from the United Arab Emirates, where he was actually working for AWS as the industry strategist for the GSI organization and the commercial team of AWS. And prior to that, he used to be the cloud transformation leader for Oracle EMEA and Asia Pacific, leading the ISV engineering teams. ISV stands for independent software vendors, the actual program office, the go-to-market teams that were actually helping Oracle partners in the ecosystem understand how to use Oracle's latest technologies and really build solutions and go-to-market. I have specifically a background in computer science, a very strong background in business administration, graduating from Henley Business School, and I've had the pleasure of investing a lot of time in the advanced management programs and business schools around the world, of which a major part of it was through Oracle support. And at the same time, through personal development. I'm a very strong advocate of, continuous development, continuous pacing to really keep up with the trends. And I think that is something that has really helped me open my horizons. I assumed the position of the chief scientist in 2023, September 11th. I'm the third chief scientist of the nation. There were two before me. One had a very small stint. I think it was 6 to 8 months. Then the other, Nicolas Mastroiannopoulos, assumed, I think, the position and really built the initial foundation of the research excellence item that we have. And building on that, I've taken charge to really help scale it to a different level, and at the same time focus more on the innovation side and how some of these breakthrough ideas, innovations, solutions we're building are really going to go to market. And I think it is at the president's heart to actually see more of what we do here in Cyprus, to be more commercialized, to really give back, right, to have that impact, to create new jobs, to also, I think, attract new minds back to Cyprus so that we can really, I think, create a, how do we call it, the Cyprus we want to see in the future, which brings me to Cyprus Vision 2035. Cyprus's Vision 2035 is to make Cyprus one of the most attractive countries to live, work, and do business in. And our research specific, let's say, vision is to actually establish by then Cyprus as a research, innovation, and technology hub across the region. And it's a vision that I believe, I aspire. And I actually, joined forces with the teams here, working very closely with Deputy Minister, His Excellency Nikodimos Damianou, and also the other colleagues to really make this vision happen true.
That's super awesome. Thank you for that. And we'll get into just many questions that are coming up for me over here. One is how you felt your experience in the private sector has positioned you and helped you in your position now in the public sector. But before we get there, one question that's really interesting for me now is, you mentioned Cyprus Vision 2035, making it attractive for outside people to come into Cyprus. Apart from, because I've had this discussion with different podcasters, different guests in the podcast, in this show. Apart, obviously, from the tax incentives and the sun and sea, how is the Cyprus Vision from the perspective, from the lens of the chief scientist and your leadership on that? How are we going to make it attractive? What is going to happen in Cyprus until 2035 to make Cyprus a great place? Which I love it here, but what is the vision?
Well, I mean, you're asking, I think, a question that has many different scales to it. But let me just say that for any young man or any scientist to walk into a new system, into a new country, they need to know that there is a chance for them to actually succeed. They need to know that there is transparency. They need to know that there is, consideration, that there is an appreciation in the specific field of industry or the specific domain. And there is also an opportunity to work and collaborate with units, right? Be this as private entities or public entities, to actually build bigger things that are bigger, right? We've seen some of that in the world. Some of the most successful companies today are companies that once were 1 member, 2 member, 3 member, 10 member teams, right? And they grew because those ecosystems that they actually started in, right, had those ingredients or characteristics that helped them protect themselves and really grow and help them, create that business. So what's happening essentially is that we're building this step by step, right? I came in and I found an ecosystem where the Research and Innovation Foundation was basically criticized for, not helping local companies enough compared to some other companies who were opening and setting up in Cyprus. I think we took, immediate action to make sure that everybody has an equal chance. We saw companies that were basically wanted to develop products, right, without really contributing to R&D. We've changed that. So we've started building transparency into a system and transparency into the process, and at the same time enhance communication so that everybody in Cyprus has an understanding of what's the next program out there. What's the next big thing that IDEC or the Research Innovation Foundation is bringing to market? And this has actually, switched the perception that people have an equal chance to really participate in bids. I mean, they're competitive programs, meaning that they have to be very good or the best ideas, right, for them to actually win the grant. But, it actually works. It actually changes the game, and it moves forward, and it inspires people to move. So in the last couple of years, we've seen amazing solutions that are coming out from our ecosystem. We've seen smaller teams step up to really achieve the unachievable, right? And, now we walk into the street and we see companies that really want to build new stuff, right? And they come and they say, hey, right, we got an idea. How can we build it? And I'll start by saying that another item that basically is very important is for people to feel this inspiration and for people to feel that we care. We as an organization, the Research Innovation Foundation and the Office of the Chief Scientist, actually are very close to youth. We sponsor most of the robotics competitions, the youth tech festivals, engagements, right? We do interact with youth to help them build that right mindset. I mean, just 2 months ago, I had a visit from 2 high school students that basically were working on a project that they were creating an acoustic map for blind people based on, a bicycle helmet. Mm-hmm. And I looked at, their model, and I said to them, and how did you build this? They said, well, we have our own R&D lab. And I said, and who sponsored that? They said, our parents. Wow. So I said to them, can you actually show me what it looks like? And they looked, they showed me, and I was quite impressed. So I asked the lady, and I said to her, so what would you like to do? She says, well, you know what? I would actually like to become a doctor. And the gentleman wanted to become an engineer. So what I did is, I picked up the phone and I actually organized 2 meetings for them. And the first one, I actually went with them to the Science Center of Excellence, where we have a team that does amazing work on augmented reality and virtual reality, right? And we had these 2 young people demonstrate the project. And I said to the professor there, can we help them really, develop this into something more, right? So imagine now that we have 2 high school kids that are working on a project, right? And this project is all about showing, right, through waves, recognizing, right, how the directional environment around looks like to people who are, blind. So imagine that by helping younger generations or children at school, right, and inspiring them, we are really, showing the world that you don't necessarily have to stay abroad if you really believe in a dream. Another example like this is we actually facilitated some infrastructure projects in 2023. The Cyprus Space Research Program was one of the ones that actually got $2.5 million from us, from the Research Innovation Foundation. And they built the small-scale space research center, which in essence basically is undertaking a study, one of which they will create a small satellite microcube with, some organs on chip, right, test that they're really going to move forward. And at this time, right, one of their partners is NASA Trish. Another partner of them is Lockheed Martin. Another partner is, for example, the Institute of Neurology in Nicosia. The other one is, for example, the Aretaion Hospital. So when people asked me one day and they said, do you really believe that we have what it takes to build the space ecosystem? I said, well, we don't have what it takes to build spaceships, right, and launch, into space. But we do have what it takes to actually build surrounding items of the ecosystem and elements. And these elements, right, actually do open up a new market. Who would have told us that, for example, a small organization like CSEO, Cyprus Space Exploration Organization, would be an ideal partner or a candidate partner for NASA to work with them?
That's with Mr. Danos, right?
That is with Mr. Danos, right? But imagine that eventually, right, 3 to 5 years down the road, if we're working on this and we got this correctly, right, we eventually get to the point where we may have Cypriot engineers that can work from NASA but be based out of Nicosia. Or Cypriot engineers work from Nicosia and collaborate on a daily basis with engineers all around the world. So as an example, this small organization called CSEO is actually doing so well. It's actually organizing and hosting the world's space conference this November in Cyprus. So this is Cyprus. So we have what it takes. We have ingredients. What we need to do is build the systems, make sure that our processes evolve, right? Because no system is going to be, I think, 100% accurate the first time. We have to continuously build and build and build and build and build, right? Or adjust to make them, I think, more agile, more adaptable, so that eventually we have a very attractive offering. And I think, what was it? The numbers that I saw lately, Startup Link says that we have, since 2024, more than 71% startups coming to Cyprus. I saw a report yesterday by LinkedIn that says that since 2024 to today, we have more than 75% increase in AI and AI skills basically being hired in Cyprus. So what this means is we're actually bringing in a lot of people in that are coming in to help.
Yeah, and also money. There was another report that I saw, list of countries that are gaining the most millionaires and also losing the most millionaires. And Cyprus is in the list, right, in terms of gaining a lot of investment coming in, millionaires coming in. US is at the very top, Dubai at the second, or Dubai is at the very top, US second. Cyprus was a little bit lower down the list, but in the top, in the green. The UK is losing a lot. This is just a kind of side note there. But also, I want to go out on a real limb over here. And actually, I was thinking about this today. We talk about the mindset of the Cypriot, and I think what you're doing is great. In terms of letting the local believe in themselves. Because here's one example: BYD. BYD is a new the electric car company, right? They are from China. They've just set up over here, and their sales have surpassed Tesla through the roof. They're originally battery. They build batteries, and in the last 5 years, whatever it is, they've gotten into the electric vehicle industry and top sales, biggest selling. And I thought to myself, why is it that a country like China, what has BYD got more than any Cypriot? And now there's a lot of things that I'm sure I'm not aware of, like, let's say, resources and whatever it is. But I think a big part is the mindset, the dare, I dare to try. Why not have an electric company or car manufacturing company built in Cyprus? It's the mindset. Why? Because if you look at, proximity and the size of the country, it's not as if BYD is built over the whole of China. They're in one city somewhere, in one town. They've got whatever, resources they need, in terms of the manufacturing plant and, the right people and investment. Why is it that they're able to and we are not? Is it the government that backs them? Is it the money that they've got? Or is it the dare to try? I dare to dream. I dream big and I'm going to try. Why not?
Well, I think you bring up a very a very big question, I think. But let me try. I think dismantling it for a while. Yeah. We've seen countries that did not have an auto manufacturing industry, and suddenly they actually have a niche. An example of that is the UAE. They've built, for example, W Motors. Right? So, but they, right, started building over a period of time that was 20 years, right? An infrastructure that would get them to the point where they could make that leap and really jump and really create something like that. I think what's happening, it's not about mindset. It's about, also understanding how much you can do. What are the immediate next must-win battles that you have to tackle, because those are transformational gains for the economy, right? And at the same time, you also have to develop the path to get there, right? I think that's what differentiates those companies or those countries who are able to really play big across these areas, right? So for us, will we ever be space pioneers? We're too small for that. We do have talent. We do have pockets of excellence. We can't get there. Will we be able to really create, for example, a car industry? Probably not, right? Because we don't have the other elements of the supply chain. However, what we can do, right, is we really do have specific types of industries that are much closer to us. And these type of industries, if we align them correctly, right, we can actually start working on them to really take things forward, which are essentially, I think, where we need to focus. So for us, we do have a research and innovation strategy 2024 to 2026. It's based on our smart specialization strategy. There are specific industries where we have, vertical capabilities, and then all of that, right, starts building on top where we are going to go. So we, as a research innovation foundation, right, have a strategy that comes in from the government that is approved by the Council of Ministers, and that basically provides a direction. And from the one side, the chief scientist and the Research Innovation Foundation are responsible, right, for implementing the guidance that the government has in terms of a strategy. So I think our strategy right now until 2026 is there. Building, for example, an auto manufacturing industry isn't there. It's beyond our capabilities, beyond our niche experience, right, or our competencies. But there's other areas where we're building, and we're building them fast as we speak. I think we're doing very well on skill building in specific areas, right? And all of that is something that really, I think, will help us get to where we want to go in 2035, right? And again, remember that all of these nations that are very advanced today, right, they start saying we are going to do 1, 2, 3 things best. We're going to be first in class in these 3, and then they get to the next phase, and then the next phase, and the next phase. And that's just a journey that we have to take.
Yeah, it makes sense, to understand your capabilities and tread on solid ground. I get it. But I'm also of the belief, if you don't think big and bold, and you've got to have also, even a bit of ignorance. I think ignorance can go a long way, because then you try these things, and then you might figure out a path that if you had to strategically plan, you would have never thought was possible. It's just and I guess that strategy doesn't always pan out successful, because high risk, high reward. That whole notion to that. But as chief scientist and treading on solid ground, what are your top priorities right now as chief scientist for the next 5 years?
Thank you for asking me. I think that's a very exciting question. So I think my first priority, right, is to actually energize the innovation ecosystem and really create a path by which the research organization, right, liaises over into the industry, so that we can use more of what we are building and researching, right, and make sure that there is a link. I think linking these two parts of our fabric, our economic fabric, will really help us move forward. The second path, right, the second point that I'm really, really passionate about is really exciting those, I think, young engineers, scientists, and, I think researchers to really step up and lead. And I think that, it's part of our strategy, and really, creating that fuel for them to really, step up and really conquer the world is something that excites me. And I think we're doing very well on that. 2025 was a phenomenal year. It's a year where we basically, had almost 50% of the researchers that were awarded were actually ladies, right? Gender balance. So we've gone from 22% of projects led by female researchers to 44% in under 2 years. Can you imagine? That's phenomenal. So what we're seeing is that we're really taking away, I think, this fear of, gender equality, and really competing and really thriving. I've made it a mission so that the world knows where Cyprus is and what Cyprus does. So we're at the point right now where, people know, right, that there is research excellence happening in Cyprus. People know that there is innovation happening in Cyprus. Some of our most innovative companies are really joining us on, I think, trips abroad, right, when we're taking them to the market, right? And I think that is something that is important because it helps us move forward, right? It helps us really understand that we're not too small. No matter how small you are, you can still innovate, you can still bring a product, and you move forward. So I think the other point is to really showcase the excellence that we do and the brilliant scientists we have. For me, mapping that industry and mapping the researchers of Cyprus was, I think, one of the most ambitious projects that I started, because I wanted to be able to tell, the scientific story, for example, of, who from Cyprus has actually added, a piece into, the scientific discovery of the world. And we have amazing professors and researchers and scientists and technologists across the world. But, right, we come to, I think, the more innovative stuff. We've been on a legacy set of solutions for quite a while now, and part of our mission with the deputy minister is to really modernize and accelerate Cyprus. Right, that's basically bringing Cyprus to the new age of digital transformation, the new age where citizens can have these seamless experiences, right? Can actually benefit from information technology and move things forward. So this, right, is one of my core missions. Is before I leave, I would like to leave, for example, our IT estate at a much better, position than we were before. We've modernized, I think, 60 digital services, and we're going to work on others that are coming. We're building, digital solutions that are going to be rolled out, across 2025 and 2026 that are making life for citizens much easier. I mean, just last month I had my father who was actually trying to, make an application for getting some subsidy for, some of his farmland. He actually was able to do it online in 2 minutes. And he said to me, son, I used to take the car, drive down to Nicosia, go to the office, sit there, wait in line, and by the time I went and came back, it was already 2 hours. And I just did this in 2 minutes, right? So what we're trying to do is really not just digitize services for the sake of digitizing them, but to make the customer journey of every citizen, I think, much better. And then the last one, right? AI, right? I spearhead the updating of the strategy of artificial intelligence. I work very closely with the deputy minister. We've built basically a how do we call it? A committee composed by I think some of the most accomplished, let's say, researchers or very strong scientists, some people from the industry across the world, right? And what we want to do is we want to bring to Cyprus a strategy that helps us balance, right, AI in a way that we actually put the human in the middle, put the human in the center, meaning that we are not out there to just automate things and really, create more frustration for citizens who want to interact with the system, right, and cannot find a way to talk to a human. We don't want, AI solutions taking over humans' jobs. We want to actually build a journey where the human is at the center and the human is empowered by using all of these technologies, and that's what I refer to as human-centered artificial intelligence.
All right. So you've obviously been very busy. Actually, my colleague Andreas here, he shared an interesting statistics that you've had already 1,100 meetings or something. So you've been pretty busy. You're speaking, traveling. And throughout your journey, and you also just discussed what your top priorities are. And throughout your journey up until now, what have been your biggest challenges in accomplishing your mission?
Well, listen, I think the main challenge we have, right, is we don't have enough people with expertise, right, that can scale. So I think the amount of work to be done with the resources is I think, insurmountable. And the other challenge is that public sector works in a very different way compared to private sector, right? So building consensus, building, collisions and partnerships with stakeholders, right, is something that is more challenging in the public sector than it is in the private sector. You decide you're going to move in one direction, you go build, right, when you have agreement, and you count days to milestones, go lives, etc. In the public sector, due to regulations, due to, I think, directives, due to, I think, organizational missions, and all of these areas, right? These add a layer of complexity that requires people to move ahead in a very interesting pathway, right? You always have to think about, I think, two alternatives of how to pursue a target or a project. You always have to, be very creative around removing obstacles in a way that is legal, right? Because you're audited all the time for every dollar spent, every hour, accumulated, by external resources. So it's about being able to walk the line of balance between efficiency, effectiveness, and also, I would say, legal compliance. And that item sometimes, right, brings challenging constraints in how fast you can move. In the private world, we were always thinking, right, break stuff and fix them again. And if they don't work, you break them again and you fix them again, right? Public sector doesn't work like that, because every decision you make impacts a citizen tomorrow, right? Mm-hmm. Every decision you make, right, might actually create irreversible chaos, right? It's not like you just walk in today and you say, I have an idea, we just replace, XYZ system and things are done, right? You actually, right, have a lot of considerations to take, a lot of dependencies, a lot of issues that may be legacies that you need to look into. But I think the most challenging task out there that I face in my mission is to actually help people that there is no golden solution for everyone's problem, and that processes are there to be followed, because they help us build a system that can be predictable, can be fair, can be equitable, can be transparent, right? And that is, I think, the foundation of how you can only scale an economy. Because remember, we are now about 500 plus companies, like on the tech innovation ecosystem, 3,500 researchers, 4,000 entrepreneurs, 20 plus research organizations across, right? And for us tomorrow, right, if we want to be the hub we aspire to be in 2035, that may require us to grow 3 to 4x. So when we grow to 3 to 4x, that essentially means that we need to be able to handle 3 to 4x the scale of volumes of transactions of what we're doing today. So that requires, right, future-proofing organizations in a way that they can really get to that level.
So you briefly touched on one of my first questions that I said I'd come back to, and that is, how do you believe that your involvement in the private sector has helped shape you and sharpen your tools, so to speak, in delivering whatever your mission is now in the public sector?
Thank you. I skipped that. Just to give you, first of all, the complexity of the challenge.
I promise to bring the question back.
It's okay. That's okay. It's perfectly. I think perfectly okay. And I think I should be made responsible for answering it. Well, I think in the private sector, and I think my biggest learning when I worked for Oracle and AWS was to be accountable not just for yourself, but for impact and people. Right? And that takes a very different path. So when you work in the private sector, and every quarter you are accountable on a deliverable, and that usually is code of new business, or it's actual projects delivered, or something that is measurable. You actually move away from thinking and designing systems to designing systems very fast, and at the same time focused on execution, right? Because you're going to be evaluated on the execution of that result, right? And that is, I think, one of the most powerful lessons that I've actually carried over. The other one is the power of the collaboration. I mean, it's we can't succeed if we're just alone, right? So from the private sector, building, these bridges, being able to really collaborate with others to build common value, right, is actually very important. And it results back to a point where you actually create value and you capture value, right? And that's how you build success. A third item that I think helped me prepare is, as a leader, being accountable for many others, right? Many people who were working for us in our team and our management structure. It's about inspiring people every day to actually come to work and really be excited because they're part of building something greater. And I think to that, right, being able to be exposed to different cultures, as I once was when I worked for Oracle, right? I mean, traveling across 100+ countries, meeting new cultures, having to work continuously with different people, different cultures, different backgrounds, different speeds of working, right? Different agility, right? Create something that is not just, I think, performance. It's leadership agility. It helps you build your leadership resilience. It helps you build your communication skills. It helps you build, for example, your resourcefulness. And I think for me, it has taught me one thing, is to be human, listen, think, reflect, right? And lead by example. And I think those are the elements that I embrace, in what I call my toolbox, that essentially, right, are enabling me to actually walk every day, right, and keep having that resilience that I have to keep on meeting a partner from the ecosystem every day. When I came, I decided that I wanted to really meet everybody out there, to really know who's who in Cyprus, what parts of the ecosystem are building, what parts are not building, where are we going, what's missing, etc. And I think today I'm almost closer to my 23rd month. I think the number is 1,310 meetings right across, and that's I think the way I think value needs to be created is we walk as partners, we listen, right? We will reflect as government, we will think, we will look at the policies, we will make decisions, right? But they will be informed decisions. And I think this cookbook, right, from leading by example, helping people develop, listening and reflecting before you make decisions, thinking about impact, right? And either you're in the public sector or private sector, everything needs to be measured, right, based on success. That is the most important item that is out there on my list. And I think those lessons are lessons that have served me well in my 2 years in the job.
Well, it's very evident, and I think just me from the outside, and one question that's just screaming in my face here is what happens, because you said it, you've done whatever it is, 1,300 meetings. It takes effort. It's also the experience that you've got. And your term obviously has an expiry date. It's in 1-2 years. I don't know when it is, 3 years. What happens after you leave? Are you building that blueprint for somebody to kind of follow and continue on that same path? Because that projectile changes. You build that momentum, and then the projectile and where we're heading is in the right direction. But then if the momentum slows down, if the next your successor doesn't continue at that pace, then it will change. And just a question, how are you gonna fix that? How are you gonna lay the foundation for somebody else to kind of follow the same mindset?
Well, first of all, I think it would be unfair for us to say that everybody has to have the same mindset. I think every leader who's called upon to, I think, develop something new or improve something, right, has a how do we call it? Has a job to really look at the situation, do his analysis, look at the ecosystem, right? See if they're going to improve something. I mean, and it may be that you improve something along the lines of what we're building, or you choose to take a different strategic direction because of different strategic intent. i.e. maybe, for example, the things that we are having right now in plan are going to be so advanced in 2028 when, my time's up in office, for a leader who will, say, okay, this is a strategy we're going to do and we're going to leapfrog, right? And that leapfrog creates a, how do we call it? Requires a different strategy. That's one. But of course, every leader, right, is responsible for building legacy, building a support structure, and also building, I think, a successor. So what I'm busy doing is, as we're building this, we're, building, I think, the infrastructure, I think the teams, the units, the people, right, who actually can take this forward. At the Research Innovation Foundation, we're building that transformation. We're building, I think, the efforts in the organization to really, align with the new DNA, the new philosophy. We're making changes. We're restructuring and simplifying the processes to make it easier for people to really move in. At the level of the chief scientist, I'm building an extension of a solution, which basically will bring agentic AI to help, for example, people in the workforce to be more productive, right? That will take away, a lot of the overhead admin, and that will require less resources, right, to be able to do more manual work. Of course, we have some visionary, let's say, topics that we're bringing forward, right? And of course, that requires, I think, first of all, to prove that this model can generate results. And then, right, that builds, the conditions for us and the enabling, I think, conditions for us to really build a team. So I think we're at a phase where I think the first 2 years have shown tremendous impact. I mean, we've almost increased the ecosystem alone from 2024 to 2025 by 71%. That's according to Startup Link. I mean, we've raised the number of lady researchers, right, competing in projects and running projects by 22% in just 1 year, from 22 to, let's say, 44%. We actually energized and revived our ecosystem, and we went from an ecosystem that had the usual partners partnering up in research and development to now have 22% new companies come in and win grants, right? That means that we're reviving and refreshing the ecosystem. We've had more than 10 new programs launched in just like 2 years that are really bringing, new researchers, new blood, right, into the ecosystem and inspiring young people. We now have, MOUs that are signed, right, with organizations abroad and countries that are really creating those research bridges right out to the world. And the story goes on. So I think all of these, right, are now at a point where what we designed for 2028 is something that will actually put the enabling structures there. And that is where we step up, to, I think, perform, improve, and scale. And I'm quite confident that, by 2028, when my time is up, that, I will be leaving Cyprus at a much better state in what I found it in, and that we're going to have more successes, we're going to have more startups, we're going to have more scale-ups, and we're going to have at least, I think, more companies that are really innovating from here, which essentially creates more jobs. And I know you're curious, right, because of AI. So I'm commissioning a survey on AI that will be going out to the world here in Cyprus. I've actually mapped approximately 300 companies that have some sort of service or solution or know-how or competency built using artificial intelligence. Now imagine that countries like, France and others, right, that are very big, they've got about, 700, 800, AI companies. And we might have, we won't have 200, we won't have 300, but we will have definitely more than 50. And that is already a beginning. And I think the numbers speak for themselves. And I always say it. I mean, we've gone from 3.2% of AI adoption when I came here to 7.6 in the first year. And we're currently sitting at about 13%. And I think that's a low estimate. I think we're going to be anywhere between 18 to 20 next year. So
You've given a very humble response on your successor there, because I agree, every leader has got their own ways and means, and it would be, wrong to say that, there's only one way. But it was a humble response. The thing is, the results are important and it takes effort. And the successor needs to keep that pace, in my opinion, right? You got to keep doing those meetings. You got to keep pushing that needle. It's just, that is one, let's call it a concern, right? Because things are heading in the right direction. I'd just like to see it continue after you, And I guess it's not your responsibility, but it's just at least you are, at the very least, you're laying that foundation. So that person who gets that role needs to keep running these initiatives, otherwise they start losing momentum. I want to get to the AI conversation. I want to go back to that, and I want to get into details. So you spearhead the AI task force, and in ratio, you compared, to France. If we had 300, if 50 of those businesses, in comparison, the ratio is a lot bigger than any other country. It's up there. We're doing well. How are you helping the small businesses, the small to medium-sized businesses, become that, innovator in AI? What is it that you're doing in terms of helping the ecosystem in that sense?
Well, first of all, I think what we already are doing as government is we do have a very let's say big focus on artificial intelligence. Besides the task force, we've already done, I think, the necessary work to make sure that every SME business is actually having access to AI enablement, right? So an example is, if you go to HRDA, right, you will already see that the Human Resources Development Authority already has 10 plus, let's say, trainings that are basically, role specific, that can really be tapped to basically, help people, resources for companies really scale up. If you then go to the actual portal of the Research Innovation Foundation, you're going to see that we do have a government program called AI for Government, where we basically have announced AI pilots, right, that are priorities from the Ministry of prioritized by the Deputy Ministry of Digital Policy and Research and Innovation, that we're asking companies to come and solve for us, right? If you then take it a step further, you're going to see that the programs for under the digital upgrade program by the Minister of Energy is essentially providing, I think, subsidies for companies to digitize or to accelerate their readiness. That also includes artificial intelligence as part of the roadmap. And last but not least, another part that the government is doing is the government has invested in a program called Digin. It's a center of excellence that was actually built in coordination with Europe.
What is it called?
Digin. Digital Innovation Hub, right? It's a hub that actually has various partners like centers of excellence, PwC, and others that are part of this, right? To be able to accelerate the journey of SMEs, of public enterprises, etc. This, right, is a fantastic asset where a company, an SME, can walk in, they can ask for a digital, for example, maturity assessment or a cybersecurity assessment or, an AI readiness assessment, and they will actually provide those services for free. That specific organization allows, on a first come, first served basis, approximately, right, 12K of a POC to be, handed over to a company. That might be 12K to actually build a chatbot. That might be 12K to build, for example, a conversational assistant. That might be 12K to build a digital dashboard, right? It might be 12K to actually develop an AI strategy for your own company. So these are the practical things that we're actually building as government. From the chief scientist perspective, I'm actually nurturing the ecosystem, the innovation ecosystem, right? Understanding basically the challenges, the competencies, who does what, right? And how strong our innovation ecosystem is. That requires a lot of engagement to actually get companies mapped to each other, understand the, who does what, how agile they are, etc., and who are at the latest edge of AI. So mapping those is a very strenuous activity. The other one is to actually support them when they actually are taking their solutions abroad and they want to actually succeed. And to do that, I wear the hat of the chairman of the Research Innovation Foundation, because we do want our startups and our companies to be able to be more successful, right? The more they grow, the more they contribute to tax, right? The more they give back to Cyprus, and that's a cycle, right? That basically allows companies to grow bigger, right? It allows government to offer more incentives, and it's a cycle. But last but not least, it's mentoring people, right? It's about helping them think in different ways about how they can actually amplify the future, how they can actually move forward, right, and identify solutions, how they can actually, I think, create for us. I think that new path that we're all trying to forge, and I think that, when you really get to the point when you're mentoring and you're helping people think, right, and think wild and, have these big audacious goals that we're talking about, right, they think of things that we have never thought about. And I think there, right, I'll give you an example. Did you know that in Cyprus we have a potential unicorn?
Tell me more.
Well, we have a company that's now in its, I think it's second year of operation. It's in the health area. It's actually developing, let's say, solutions that are using neuromodulation to help people, fight rare diseases and actually have a much better quality of life. So SozoBrain is a company that I believe that 10 years down the road, with the path that they have right now, they're going to cross the 1 billion market.
Nice. SozoBrain.
SozoBrain, yes. I mean, what they're doing is amazing. I mean,
I haven't even heard of them.
Yeah, they're growing very fast. So SozoBrain is one. I just met another one today that I need to do more profiling, but this is a company that basically designs CPUs, GPUs, basically in random generators, latest edge technology that will be used in quantum and AI. Former, I think, top rated R&D engineers that are now developing products that has actually been looked at by NVIDIA, by Apple, by Intel. They're sitting here. I mean, their IP will probably be here by the end of the year. Right?
Quantum computing.
Quantum computing, but not theoretical quantum computing. We're talking about a company that is actually designing, right, end-to-end the actual CPU and the chip.
Built here?
Yes. We even have here a company, right, it's very innovative, that they can actually even print a GPU card or a CPU card, right, graphics card, using 3D printer, and it comes out and it can be fully functional. We've got companies in Cyprus that have the capability to give you holograms within a box. That's Ravatar, right? We can actually have me walk in there, they scan me, they look at all my attributes, right? And they start, using some of the knowledge I have. And then voila, you have, Demetris as a chief scientist virtually anywhere you can go and you can have a basic conversation with them. They're building avatar technologies and websites. We've got, a company called DynamicWorks that you know very well that is actually is building a solution for behavior analytics and also KYC using AI. We've got a company called Signal Generics that has actually created a pathfinder to be able to really locate distance, for example, and signals. I mean, these ones, they're in the defense tech industry. We've got solutions that are really, done for space. We've got, I think, digital twins built by the centers of excellence that are mapping digital cities and all other areas. So we are moving fast, and I think bringing all of these to the world is what really people get to see, that we are making things here in Cyprus.
I love it.
Did you know that we have a security company that is in cybersecurity, and they actually feature on the Gartner's Leaders Quadrant?
No.
They're called Odyssey Consultants.
Yes.
They're actually having their security SEM solution is featuring there. Did you know that we had a researcher or a team of researchers, young ladies that worked for our centers of excellence, that walked away and created a cybersecurity solution for mobiles? That's Malak, right? So we have researchers that are building solutions for haptics, right? We have, name it. We have hundreds of them.
That's amazing.
But the world didn't know them before. So now what we are doing is we're bringing all of these fantastic solutions, fantastic, I think, researchers and entrepreneurs out of the closet so that everybody gets to see them, right? And I think this is one of the reasons why we're also gaining a lot of attraction from the wider ecosystem. I mean, from other countries that are working with us.
Yeah, I was going to ask you because I saw a recent post of yours. You were in the UAE. You've established MOUs with different companies, with different countries, rather, Japan, the UAE, Israel. Can you give us more insight in the initiative there? What the plan is there? What's getting set up, and what can we look forward to?
So yeah, thank you. So I think the most important item is that when you actually are working on establishing Cyprus to become a research and innovation hub, you need to think of a strategy that will take you there by 2035, right? And for us, it's about building those MOUs with countries like Japan, like Israel, like the United States, and many others, right? That are basically very advanced in research and very advanced in technology. And by partnering with them and getting to a point where we have, I think, R&D funds, right, under the MOUs, we can really execute. So for us, each one of these countries has a specific, let's say, know-how and expertise, and I think an area for collaboration. For example, the UAEs, we have an MOU on AI. With Israel, we don't just have, I think, digital technologies. We also have, I think, energy, environment, etc. The same thing, for example, with Japan. So the way that we work is we first establish that MOU, that it's a ministerial to ministerial agreement, creates that umbrella. Then we go down and we have, the funds that are required available, right, for us to be able to drive forward. And then, right, we start going into initiatives that are really going to build things. And I think in the UAE, what you saw was an MOU that was signed between, I think, Doers Festival, the Reflect Festival, with Dubai Silicon Oasis, which was very inspired about our own entrepreneurial, let's say, tech ecosystem here in Limassol. And they're taking it to Dubai Silicon Oasis. So from November onwards, November 25th, right, Dubai will be hosting the Doers Festival. And I think, as government, we're also very proud of it because we're actually showing that we might be small, but even Cyprus can actually give something or export something that is of value to our strategic partners. And that's there, and it opens up new possibilities. Now, building on top of that, the most important item is making those happen, because you can actually sign MOUs, but you may never follow through in implementing. And that's where we are. That's where we are basically, I think, building path by path every day, right? Making sure that everything that we bring to the table and we're building and we're announcing is something that is being followed through. And, I think this is one of the strong points of our presidency.
So walk me through a practical example over here. How can I, for example, my company, DGM Tech Solution, make use and benefit and leverage off of these MOUs that are established? Is there some kind of guide that I can follow? What has opened up for me as a small business? What opportunities have opened up with these?
Well, first of all, let's take the UAE as an example, right? We have an MOU with the UAE that's on artificial intelligence, and we also participate due to that MOU, I think in trade fairs, right, in GITEX, etc. So should you wish to take a ready-made product that you have that has artificial intelligence in it, and it really falls under that MOU because of our common interest, if you decide to come to GITEX, which is October 13th all the way to October 18th, right, and you feature your solution, you're showcasing your solution there at the booth, you want to attract, I think, industry players or customers from, visiting that expo, we will help you. If you actually want to go and, meet corresponding, solution providers that have a similar solution because you really want to learn, right, we can actually host a roundtable discussion. If you want to actually go into a new market, right, or you're interested in finding VCs, right, we could actually talk to our liaisons on the other side and make sure that you get introduced to a VC. So are you looking for funding for VC money? If you are, Dubai Silicon Oasis has a very good platform for it. If you're looking for setting up, let's say, an office in Dubai, right? Dubai Silicon Oasis has fantastic services that can facilitate you, right? And all it takes is just an email and a follow-up call, and they'll be there ready to receive you. Do you want somebody who's going to be there to mentor you, right? When you hit the ground and you're actually, trying to understand how the business works. There's people there. In fact, I also sit on the Ignite program, which is a program commissioned by Sheikh Hamdan, His Excellency, the Deputy Crown Prince of Dubai, basically supporting the vision of Dubai to create the 100,000 startups of tomorrow. So I act as a mentor to startups that are there. And likewise, we have access to people, that mentors, sponsors, right, coaches who can actually help you navigate that. If you actually wanted to go into UAE, right, and we don't have a way from the government, we can actually use our resources that work with government and are affiliated or working with the Cyprus members of the diaspora, who can really I think open doors and really build stuff.
Mm-hmm. Exciting times ahead. What are your plans after office? Are you coming back into the private sector?
Well, we still have 3 years left, right? So 3 years in public sector is a long time. Hard question to answer to you, but I mean, I'm here because I want to actually offer my services to the government and to really, support our president, whom I deeply, I think, value and appreciate for his help, right, and his trust. And, I'm here to serve the country. 3 years' time, we're going to see. But I think hopefully there's going to be more work for me to do within the ecosystem, right? And to really keep this rapidly increasing ecosystem grow bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think no reason to think about, what's next when you're actually very busy building what you have to make Cyprus, right, the best ecosystem in the world. And I think that's my focus right now.
That's awesome. Dimitri, I think I've taken up already an hour of your time at least, yeah. I want to thank you very much for your time. If there's anything else you feel you would like to add in the closing comments, let's move on to closing comments. And this was a very informative discussion for me, and thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to leave the audience with a message saying that there's many programs that fit everyone's needs, right? Particularly when it comes to research and innovation. Go to research.org.cy, right? And if you do have questions, if you're not finding what you need and you need help, you want to innovate, you want to check if an idea, right, will actually survive in the market or will grow in the market, right? Do feel free to reach out. My team and myself are always available. We want to help you, right? Be the superstars of Cyprus, right? We want to help you build, the future of Cyprus. We want to help you build a platform in which no young man, no young lady, right, will have to stay abroad because there is not a job here in Cyprus. So we want to build, a community that is going to really create jobs for tomorrow and really help people, I think, succeed in achieving their dreams. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that's a wrap.